All right, Shalom. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. I'd also like to give double honors to my elders, bishops, and apostles of Great Millstone that do brew well. And I would like to say peace and salutations to the Lord's elect, to the hopeful elect in the 1/3. And Adon Ratazah, this lesson will be edifying as well as exhorting to the sincere sheep of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and Tawada Abanawa Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Forgive me the inspiration to do this lesson. And as the title reads, are you following Mr. Popular or ... So don't know if I'm going to keep that title, but the ... is referring to, are you following Mr. Popular? Okay, are you following what the people like, or are you following a man after Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's heart? Okay, and I was just reading into First Samuel's, and it was very humbling. It was very edifying as well, and I wanted to share it with the body. Okay, and at the end of the day, when you read into the scriptures, all right, like here, let me show you. I'm going to tell you this, man, Jake. We as a people right now, Jake's jacked up. All right, we got our own characteristics. We have our own likes, wants, and needs, and a lot of times, all right, how we are as a people right now, because we're not in our kingdom, we're not fully in the new covenant, we're under grace. So right now, Jake doesn't always know what's best for him. Jake doesn't always know what's best for her. All right, and we can find that out in many different occasions. Soon as Moses went with the Lord to get the laws, Jake started praising the calf and just going off. And one thing that you're seeing is that same repetitive nature today with a lot of Israelites that have woken up to be in Israel, but look at who they're following. They want to follow the Mr. Popular, the popular prophet. All right. Are you following the popular prophet, or you see, because the true men of the Lord, they were lowly, they were humble or got humbled. Okay. They weren't always the popular of the bunch per se. All right. So look, let me just show you. This is I can get this one. This is 1 Samuel 8:5. Look, it says, verse 4, then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah and said unto him, behold, thou art old. Have we not heard men say that about our elders? Okay, and look what happened to them. It says, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. So Israel wanted, they wanted a king like the nations had a king. And guess what king came out of that? King Saul. All right. But then what happened? Saul fell. All right. But he was the tall and stature, and he had all the carnal. He had the carnal the outline that Jake would want, a woman would want. All right. But the Lord doesn't deal in that office. Now let me show you that. This is 1 Samuel 16. Okay. And look at this. This is 1 Samuel 16:7, because even Samuel has said that one of these got to be the men. Right here, verse 6. It says, and it came to pass, this is Samuel, he had to get up and he had to go and meet Jesse and his 7 sons at the time. But David was the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. All right. And it says, and it came to pass when they were come that he looked on Eliab and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. So even Samuel looked and was like, this got to be the guy. So that's what you got to realize in this walk right now. Like, are you following, okay, the shepherds of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai? Are you following the anointed? Are you following who the Lord is dealing with? Because remember, the Lord only wants those that are after his heart. This is 1 Samuel 13 and 13. It says, and Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy power, which he commanded thee. For now would Yahweh Bashem Yahushai have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. But now thy kingdom shall not continue, just like Yahushai said. Yahushai said, he that builds upon this foundation, okay, will not be overthrown. I will look at him as wise. But then you got others that built their foundation upon sand. Okay, so a lot of these camps are sand. A lot of these camps are the house of Saul. All right, they're not repentful. They're not remorseful. Because yeah, I get it. We're in sinful flesh. Even some of the greatest men, okay, went off. Even in this King David. Okay, that's why you have Psalms 51. So the point is, it's not necessarily the Mr. Perfect. It's not necessarily the Mr. Perfect. It's the most loyalist, the most humblest. Okay, and a lot of guys that you're seeing out here, they're unrepentful. And Jake is evil, man. Jake is proud. Jake has no problem lying. And really, what I'm noticing in my experience is Jake needs to be judged. Jake needs to be judged, man. Okay, a lot of you Israelites here in Babylon, you've allowed the wicked deeds of protection from Babylon to go to your head. You still got to answer to Yahweh Shemel Shai at the end of the day, man. Okay, and a lot of these camps are carrying themselves in a very proud manner, as if they're not going to be brought low. Okay, because they got they're popular, they get the likes, the subscribes, the wives, the clothing, or the merchandise. That don't matter. That don't mean nothing to Yahweh Shemel Shai. All right, look, and it says, but now thy kingdom shall not continue. See, now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought him a man after his own heart. That's why I titled this lesson, are you following Mr. Prophet or ... a man after Yahweh's heart? And that's what ultimately King David is. That's ultimately what the house of David is. Okay, where they want to like what Yahweh Bashemel Shai likes. They hate what Yahweh Bashemel Shai hates. They want to please Yahweh Bashemel Shai, and not their self, not their belly. Okay, this is why when we go off, we immediately repent. All right, we're remorseful. We got to understand, yeah, we're under grace, but still, but the house of Saul ain't operating like that. Mr. Popular Prophet ain't operating like that. Okay, and it says after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. See, so that's the account where the Lord told Saul, hey, no more, man. Okay, because he had mercy on Amalek. All right, he had mercy on the in particular king, which ultimately got slayed by the priest Samuel. Now let's go back to this. Check this out. 1 Samuel 16:7. So what we just read was pertaining to the man that was set up as king over Israel, and then he got stripped of that. So you could be stripped of your rank. You can have all the accolades of Israel, and then the Lord takes it from you. So just having the acceptance of Jake don't mean you're accepted by the Lord. Just because you're accepted by Israel doesn't mean the Lord accepts you. So this is what you got to understand, just because it may look like this camp or that camp, but it's like, man, hey, I hope Yahweh Shemel Shai has anointed them. See, a lot of our people fall under this obedience to man spirit. Of course, there's honor, there's rank. We understand that, but they look past the spiritual acceptance because you're just an Israelite. Okay, well watch this. Why didn't David's first oldest brother get chosen? He was a firstborn, because it tells you in Exodus 13, all the firstborn are mine. But David, I believe, was the 8th son. Let me look that up. What son was David? I think he was the 8th. Let me see. Let's put 8th son. Let me see real quick. Let me put this. Was David the 8th son of Jesse? Let's put that. Let me see. Yes, David was the 8th and the youngest son of Jesse. And remember, okay, this is why Yahweh Shai, he pulled that young lad in the middle. All right, I got it right here in Matthew 18. And he pulled the young lad in the middle of the men and said, he's the greatest. So here's a great example with our king. This is our king we're talking about. Our king, King David, was the 8th out of 7 mighty men. Okay. And this is who the Lord chose. Even though even Samuel said, well, Eliab, surely he's the anointed before the Lord. But the Lord said this, but Yahweh Shemal Shai said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature. Right. The status of him, his acceptance with the world, Mr. Popular. Oh, he's girl, he good with kids. Yeah, those are good qualities. But sometimes, a lot of times, people take their personal opinions of acceptance and then equate that to the Lord's. You cannot take just because it's your type and say this got to be the Lord's type. It don't always work like that. Just because he's Mr. Popular to you, don't mean he's Mr. Popular to the Lord. Okay. And it says, because I have refused him, for the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart, the mind. It's all about the mind, brothers. Okay. It's not about how diesel you are. Like, of course, as a man, you want to have some type of health and shape to you, but just because you're the strongest or you're the thisest doesn't mean you're going to be the thatest. Okay. And this is a great example to show you. You got a lot of our people that are screaming and following after the house of Saul. Okay. Right now. And IUIC is a great example. Okay. That's a very popular, outspoken, family oriented, organized mess. All right. And I got to say it like that, because that's why Yahweh Shai said, inwardly, you're full of dead man bones, though. Outwardly, yeah, you look great. You look mighty. Well, so did Goliath. And it was through the name that David slew him in the very next chapter of 1 Samuel 17. Okay. And David was the youngest. So it don't always necessarily, it don't matter carnally. Okay. Now let me go down. Now this is after all his brothers passed through. They go 1, 2, 3, all the way 7, right? All of them. Look, 7. See? And then it goes, look, 1 Samuel 16 and 10 again. Right. It's like 7 camps came by. IUIC, no. Now, is there elect? Yes. There's like our elders say, which makes all the sense in the world. If you're spiritual, there's going to be elect men that are going to come from these camps. And like our elders say, which makes sense yet again, is going to be what? The MOTB is going to be that game changer. That's what's going to separate the elect from the non-elect. That's going to be what's going to separate the truth from the lie. Okay. But when you look at in its entirety, we have to look at these camps in the same way, how the Lord denied them, and I'm not just saying it's just a camp thing. All right. It's not just a camp thing, but you know what I'm saying here. So just like this, just because they're that don't mean they're chosen. Look, again, Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel, and Samuel said unto Jesse, the Lord has not chosen these, and Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest. And behold, he keepeth the sheep, very spiritual, the shepherd, all right? And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. So it's like, just because a brother, okay, because I'm just focusing on the elect, okay, meaning the 144,000, which also within the 1/3 are men, women, and children. But just because a brother don't got the best beard, he may not even be the best speaker, that's who the Lord is dealing with. It's not Mr. Popular, okay? And that's why we can't get puffed up. We can't think ourselves to be something when we are nothing. Just because Israel is boosting you up, you got a lot of guys that are getting fluffed up because of Israel, and they think the Lord is dealing with them, and that's scary. It makes me think of how even Yahweh Shai had to run away from Jake because they were trying to make him king right then. He like, whoa. No, we're not in the kingdom yet. I got a job to do. See, we're not in the kingdom yet. Okay. Look, it says, and he sent and brought him in. Now he was ready, meaning he was, he had his youth to him. He was an adolescent. He was a young man. They say he could have been between like 10 and 15. I don't know exactly. The details, if you will, are not necessarily important, but he was young. He was the youngest. Okay. And this word ruddy, it doesn't mean that he was looked like Esau. Okay. And it says, and wherewithal of a beautiful countenance. So he was a young man, look, and goodly to look at. He was a young, handsome man, right? With that Jay said, you like a handsome boy. He was a young, handsome man. It's Jake. Come on, Okay. But he wasn't in war. He'd have war wounds, and he was the youngest. Look, and it says, and the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. So right here's a great example to show you that this was the youngest. He wasn't Mr. Popular. Okay. He wasn't even the firstborn. And everyone else carnally was counting him out. So people are set up to carnally count you out, brothers. So don't think because you don't got all the views, the subscribers. Hey, man, just like it says, with all that money comes snares, like you get just enough to keep you going. Okay. You don't need to complicate your life anymore. And you'll even hear that in movies. A guy, he's like getting ready to propose and he's telling some elder, he's like, I'm getting ready to complicate my life. Like, nah, don't complicate your life, brothers. Okay. Live a simple, cool, calm, clean life. Stay out the way. You don't got to be loved by the people, because what are these people? Going back, just because Jake, the multitude followed and wanted a king didn't mean that the king that they got was right for them. Just because you want to follow this big camp, like the one Jake in the Malcolm X movie, he saw everybody marching, so he's want to jump in. Camaraderie. Okay. It says follow not a multitude to do evil. It says men, you are as graves which appear not, and men walk over you. Okay. So don't ever think for a second because someone is banging and boasting on a carnal level, oh my God, all these people, that the Lord is with them. Look, you got Esau be having those churches filled too. He had his time. Now look at this. This is the spiritual connection, because when I was reading 1 Samuel 16, the thought came to my mind about how Yahushua did this. So this is a very spiritual parallel. Matthews 18:1. At that same time came the disciples unto Yahushua, saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Yahushua called a little child unto him and set him in the midst of them. Right, like David. Okay, David was set in the midst of all his brothers. He got anointed in front of all of his older big brothers. And you know how brothers are, Let me see. See, look, verse 13. It says, then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. Imagine that, brothers. Okay, imagine that. You know how older brothers are. They lord over you. They dominate over you. They rule over you. You're not always the first pick, or maybe not even always the first choice for certain things. But look at what happened. The Lord anointed him over his brothers who were thought that one of them were the chosen. So it's not who you think is always the chosen is the anointed. All right. This is why this thing's high level, man. This is why the best should just be humble. We work on our own self-confidence, self-love, things of that nature. But if you need the acceptance of man in this world, you got to work on that, man. Okay. You got to work on that from within. We want the love of Yahweh Shemel Shai. Even like when David made the remarks about Goliath, he's like, yo, who this defying Israel? He didn't fight him based off of his own personal emotion. He took that as blatant disrespect against his God. That's what we hear. We here for our God. We here for Yahweh Shemel Shai. And the Lord has given us a body and an office to defend within that. That's what it's about, man. Okay. So, you got brothers around. You got to look at brothers in the spirit, not in the flesh. Some of the greatest men of our forefathers we read, they went through some things, man. And hey, I read those things and say, whoo, like what he had to go through to create this psalm, or what the Lord made him go through, like that don't make him popular amongst the people. And it says, verse 2, and he set him in the midst of them, and said, verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as a little child, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. See? So we got to carry ourselves as a child of innocence and pure. That's why I said in malice, be as a child, but in pretty much in righteousness, be as an adult. I'm paraphrasing. We could Google it. But the point is, you don't want to carnally puff yourself up and put yourself in a situation, braggadocious, or, I got to look at the definition up, and put yourself in this position that ain't even yours. Braggadocious. Let me see. Yeah, see, boastful arrogance. See, boastful or arrogant. You don't want to be braggadocious, man, because if you ever been humbled by the Lord, which the Lord deals with humility, but if you ever been humbled for pride, hey, your ass will be quiet for a couple of days. You'll be quiet for a couple days. Okay. It's Galatians 6:3. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. See? So you don't want to allow the card of popularity of the people to deceive you. And a lot of these camps, we've seen that. Even just the other day, that unclean vessel, who you know as Alazar, he stated it was Israel's fault for following him, or he said it was Israel's fault for you putting him on a level that he wasn't at. But notice how after he got humbled, per se, after he got exposed, now he's saying that to you. You see? So you got to watch that Mr. Popular, all right? Because pride goeth before destruction, and you could fall like Saul, all right? Because the house of Saul is going down. So you need to be, you don't want to be in the house of Saul as it collapses, man. And that's what's getting ready to take place. So a lot of Israelite men have puffed themselves up with these ranks and these positions, and the people accepted it and glorify it. And they don't realize that that's happened in the past by a same man that was taken down, and then Mr. Not Popular, okay, Mr. Not Invited, was anointed before all of them. All right. Now, right here, I put this word in. It came up 3 times. Matthew 23:12. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. So the best thing to do is humble yourselves, like Yahweh Shai said, as the child. Okay, because you can have guys come in that are a little older carnally, and they got a flesh demon where they think because you're younger, you can't say nothing to them. Well, that's the same thing they thought about Jeremiah. That's the same thing they thought about King David. At the time, he was just Dawada, right? David. But these are great examples for us to apply to ourselves moving forward with the spiritual mindset of, right, the Lord ain't always dealing with the popular. He said he chose the weak of this world. He said he chose the poor of this world. But Jake thinks because you're rich, all right, because they think gain is godliness. That's what you thought. Okay, the James 2:5, I believe. This is James 2:5. It says, hearken, my beloved brothers, has not Yahweh chosen the poor of this world, rich in faith, and heirs of the kingdom, which he has promised to them that love him? Right. So are you following Mr. Popular or a man after the heart of Yahweh Bashim Shai? You know, because you could be following a good shepherd or a bad shepherd. That's what it comes down to. Either you could be following the house of Saul or the house of David. It's that simple. But remember, even Saul was popular. Even Israel cried for a king, and then they were given one. But it doesn't mean that that king was the anointed, chosen of Yahweh Bashim Shai. You got to be mindful of these things, because we're in the time where the Lord don't got to wait because it's Monday. He don't got to wait because the Cowboys are playing. The Lord don't got to wait, man. That's what I'm man, bro. Like, people are so embedded in Babylon that you think the Lord got to wait for Babylon. No, bro. The Lord's not an author of confusion. So why is the Lord going to wait till confusion takes a break from confusion to bring in order? No, he's going to bring it in the midst of it all. Just like when the writing was on the wall, many tickle, man. So the Lord don't got to wait for nobody, you know? The Lord don't got to wait for nobody, man. Let me get this too. This is Acts 13. And Acts 13:21, it says, and afterward they desired a king, right? Like, now, Nate, Bishop Nathaniel, all right? All these guys, all my deacons. Oh, no, these are titles, but that don't mean that they're anointed or chosen by the Lord. You got a lot of camps that have gone viral, okay? They've had so-called celebrities. That don't mean shit. Not being carnal. That don't mean shit to Yahweh Shemel Shai. See, man places man on a pedestal. And it's funny because the earth is the Lord's pedestal. So what you really doing, Jack? It says, and Yahweh gave unto them Saul, the son of Cis, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, Banyamyam, by the space of 40 years. And when he had removed him, see, he raised up unto them David to be their king, who was the youngest, who was disregarded, who wasn't even invited directly when Samuel came looking for the anointed unto the sons of Jesse. King David was the 8th and the youngest son. He wasn't even invited. He had to be told to go get that young lad and bring him here. See? So people may look at you as if you shouldn't be here, when in actuality, it's like you don't even got on a wedding garment. You're going to be kicked out of here. So that all we got to do is just keep following after Yahweh Shem Shai, remain in order, better yourself, be a better brother, be a better, you know, be a better servant, have faith, follow under the same mindset that we see David did and became a king. Follow after righteousness, follow after order, and the Lord's going to take care of the rest. You see, but when guys want to try to put themselves in a position when they're not, even King David's sons were trying to fight for the throne when he was on his bed. And then the prophet, I was like, Gad, I got to look it up, or Nathan, he had to remind him about Solomon. See? So guys are constantly trying to fight for the seat like musical chairs, but it's the Lord that's going to stop the music and place those in the chairs. That's why Yahushua said, ye will sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Because you got Jake right now acting like they're the judges right now. Shalom, Israel. I'm coming to New Guinea. No, that don't mean shit. Look, man is puffed up, man. The man is vain, okay? Shit, man, heathens are imagining a vain thing, and Jake acting like a heathen too. A lot of these people are imagining vain things, and you got to watch that, okay? Their popular opinion don't always make it true. A popular opinion don't always make it true. It says, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, which shall fulfill all my will. See? So it's about who the Lord chose, not who Israel chose. Because Israel be having bad taste, man. Just like you women be having bad taste in men. And it says that we're beautiful, delicate. Let me get it, Jeremiah 6. We're beautiful. It's true though. We gotta admit, we gotta call a spade a spade. These things are true, man. All right. Jeremiah 6:2. I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. And you see our women right now. Okay, the brothers are getting on them. The daughters of Zion are now monsters. Then the Elder Ariala did a beautiful lesson I got to tune into. Just a title alone, I said, oh, that's so intriguing. From hoes to housewives. So we're playing the role now of being that traditional wife to the Lord, while the rest of our people are playing still the harlot. They're still playing the harlot, man. So I just wanted to touch on this lesson. I think it's an edifying angle, but it is true, man. Okay, and it is true. So are you following Mr. Popular, or are you following a man after Yahweh Shem Shai's heart? So you got to be careful what shepherd you're following, and you got to understand what you're involved in. I would not want to be in the house of Saul when the fall of it will be great. I'm telling you right now, like it was told to Moses, tell these people, flee ye from the tents of these wicked men. All right, there's wicked, evil men out here. I deal with wicked, evil Israelites on a daily. I just had to escape from a wicked, evil Israelite boss, man. And the nigga's still proud. So you're going to see the pride of them. You're going to see the lying lips of them, but you're also going to see the fall of them, because judgment must begin at the house first. So remember that. Stay close to Yahweh Shem Shai and stay away from these Mr. Popular and vanity. All right. So I pray this lesson was edifying. I'm going to leave it there. All right, so I want to just say, call halal, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, double honors to my elders, bishops, and apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the Lord's beloved elect of the house of David. All right, with that being said, shalom.